what do people actually want? And they want to get the benefits of sunlight, but they don't want to get the skin aging. So I developed this lens that removes the UVA and just uses a small amount of UVB, but in the right spectrum, and that actually can help you produce around 12 to 15 times more vitamin D than taking the sun in the Caribbean at noon.
Today's guest is Gerardo Gutierrez, founder of a company called Mitolux that makes some of the world's best infrared and UV light panels designed to increase vitamin D, testosterone, and boost your mood. In this episode, we discuss the science behind the healing powers of sunlight. We dispel some myths about UV light and showcase how the Mitolux technology can dramatically improve your health, your longevity, and your beauty.
I had a divorce. I got depression, so I got prescribed antidepressant, and also my testosterone dropped so much that I had to go into TRT. Time passed, and I didn't like the idea of having to be prescribed for the rest of my life. I started doing research and found that basically taking more sunlight could be a natural cure for getting your testosterone up, to getting obviously your vitamin D up, and even to lower depression, because you can increase your microbiome and you can also increase serotonin.
All right, Gerardo, welcome to the Fit Father Project podcast. We are so happy to have you here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, this is a very powerful topic that I'm deeply passionate about, how we can use light and specific wavelengths of light to increase our health. And your company, Mitolux, is designing some of the best products in the space that can help people harness the power of natural sunshine in an even safer way to enhance their health. And I would like to kick off with a little bit of your own personal story about how you got passionate about the sun and how your health dramatically changed by, getting into this space around light.
Yes, of course. Well, right now I'm 47 years old, so I was born in 1977. And as I grew, as many people during the 1980s and 1990s, and I was taught to be afraid of the sun. So basically, I was of the generation that you were just putting so much sunscreen over you and trying to avoid the sun, as the sun was something bad for you. And even when I see pictures of myself as a teenager or early 20s, I was really pale. And back then, I used to have a lot of problems with my respiratory system, like bronchitis and so on. But I just went with general doctor advice of taking regular medicines and so on. But the big enlightened moment happened 4 years ago, because I had a big divorce. So I got really bad emotionally. So I got depression. So I got prescribed antidepressants. Also, it was during COVID. So I was staying a lot inside and getting too little sunlight. So my vitamin D levels were bad, even living in El Salvador, that is a very shiny country. And also my testosterone dropped so much that I had to go into TRT. So they really helped, because I'm not against antidepressants in the right moment, or TRT was an amazing thing for me. But time passed, and I didn't like the idea of having to be prescribed for the rest of my life. So I started, because I love reading, I love doing research. I started doing research and found that basically taking more sunlight could be a natural cure for getting your testosterone up, to getting obviously your vitamin D up, and even to lower depression, because you can increase your microbiome and you can also increase serotonin. So I gave it a try and started taking nude sunbaths in my garden. I didn't know what to expect, but basically from week number 1, emotionally, I was feeling a lot better. And gradually over 4 months, I got a prescription free, because I stopped on TRT. I also stopped on antidepressants. Obviously, at first, my testosterone dropped, but then it went basically to the same healthy levels I was getting with TRT. So I was like totally amazed on the potential of getting natural sunlight for improving your health. And on the other way, I also bought an Amazon red light therapy panel for improving my skin, and I was seeing results. But my Shih Tzu dog, she was having arthritis. So I put a crate, I put the light. I didn't know what to expect, but after 2 weeks, she was walking and running. And that just gave me an great insight on the potential of using the sun and light therapies for health. And that's where the story began.
So cool. A couple specific questions for those that might want to try a nude sunbathing adventure, how long did you stay outside in the sun when you initially were doing the nude sunbathing?
Well, basically, since I was very pale, sun, you need to do it gradually to build your solar callus. So first day it was 10 minutes on one side, 10 minutes on the other. And did it around 10:30, 11 a.m. in the morning because I wanted to get the benefits of UVB. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
get the sun early in the morning, it's great for infrared, but you're not getting the UVB. That, in my opinion, the most important part of sunlight would be UVB and infrared. So the best time is when the sun is really up. And then gradually I kept growing until I did 30 minutes on one side and 30 minutes on the other.
Mm-hmm. And with your dog, who are you using that red light panel with? How long did you keep it on your dog in his or her crate? Like, what was the protocol there?
I really didn't know what to expect at the beginning. I thought that I was going to have to close the crate to keep the dog inside, but I left it open. And what amazed me is that dogs have a great instinct to actually know what's good for them. So
Yeah.
basically, the dog just spent there for hours, and I left the red light on. So when she felt she had enough, she went out. And the funny thing is that then other dogs and then the cats started just taking turns because they love it so much. So I believe the best protocol is to leave it at their instinct to take as much as they desire. And if you have
Mm-hmm.
ever noticed, dogs and cats naturally crave sunlight, and they go
Yeah.
when they see some light to take their natural sunbath.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, I think it's a good time to pit stop and talk about the sun's natural emissions itself, because I don't think a lot of people know the different spectrums of light that the sun kicks
Yes.
out. So, can you talk about that? Like, we're obviously talking about UV and infrared and visible light. Can you tell
Yes.
us like what comes off the sun and how it changes throughout the day, and maybe what each of those wavelengths is beneficial for?
Yes, of course. Well, basically, we can only see the visible side of the sun, the visible spectrum. And most people would think that most of the energy of the sun is actually on the visible side. But when you do research or when you use an instrument to measure, you will find out that on average, infrared which could be from 60 to 65% of the total energy we're receiving. So most of the energy you naturally receive from the sun is actually infrared. So that's amazing. And that's what makes you feel the heat. And it's actually incredibly amazing. So, for example, when you're buying a red light therapy panel, what you're actually getting is the mostly the near infrared, just like the sun. So
Mm-hmm.
you could get the same benefits of a red light therapy panel just by taking early morning sunbaths or late day sunbaths. So that's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So when you get a red light therapy panel, it's not like rocket science. You're just emulating the light you get early in the morning when the sun is really down. So that
Yes.
would be one of the spectrum. Then you got visible light. Visible light, it's an average maybe like 40%, sometimes 45% of the visible spectrum. Usually like 35, and then you get the UV. And also, there's a lot of magic in UV. We have been taught to be afraid of the UV, and that's really, really bad. Because, for example, when people think about the sun benefits, the first thing that might come in mind is vitamin D. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, of course, vitamin D is one of the benefits of getting the sun when the sun is very high, not when the sun is low, like early in the day or late in the day or in winter. And there you get the UVA and UVBs. UVA help with metabolism and nitric oxide production, and then you get the UVB. That's where there's basically more benefits. One of them would be vitamin D, and just vitamin D by itself would be a sufficient reason to get more sun. But then there are some studies that have been coming in the last 5 years that I didn't know because we're always learning. And one of them is, for example, microbiome. We know that nowadays most people are doing really bad with their microbiome, and improving that could be as simple as getting more natural sunlight or using, if you cannot get access to natural sunlight, because that's the best. But the second option could be, for example, to use a device like the one I've developed.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I want to highlight a few things and really zone in on that UV. I think when people hear UV light, they think photo damage in their skin cancer, sunburns.
Yes,
And obviously that can happen, but it would be in a dose when you feel aversion to the sun. Your skin kind of gives you this feedback where you know you've had too much. And
yes,
something you and I have talked about before is that the UVA, which is part of that UV spectrum, is what does a lot of the skin aging. But it
That's
also has
right.
benefits. You know, it
Yes.
increases nitric oxide, but the UVA is what can cause damage and breaks to our collagen. And but it's the UVB, which is a part of that UV spectrum that actually increases vitamin D, but does not cause photo aging. So this is where I think we're going to get into your invention that's so powerful. Is you isolated that UVB that gives you the vitamin B or vitamin D synthesis, but it doesn't cause the skin aging. And it's not to
Mhm.
villainize UVA; it's important in the right dose with
Yes,
red
of
light.
course.
But speak into that a little bit more because I think I want people to understand that distinction and also why UVB is what they need for vitamin D production, and that you can only get that midday, pretty much when the sun is high up.
Yes. So basically, I'm not against UVA. Obviously, I'm also not against using the right type of sun protection. So
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I use mineral sun protection on my face, neck, and hands because that's where the photo aging happens. But I try to get as much UVA as good for the rest of my body. So regarding the design of the lamp, basically, when you're getting the sun, uh, most of the energy in the UV spectrum is UVA. There's little UVB, and only a small fraction of those UVB actually help to make the vitamin D production.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that you have a lot of at least regarding to vitamin D, most of the of the UV is not doing the work. So what I try to do, because I did some research, what do people actually want? And they want to get the benefits of sunlight, but they
Yes.
don't want to get the skin aging. So I developed this lamp that removes, like previous generation lamps, the UVA, and just uses a small amount of UVB, but in the right spectrum, and that actually can help you produce around 12 to 15 times more vitamin D than taking the sun in the Caribbean at noon, but without the UVA or the excess or the excess UVB, not at the right wavelength.
That is powerful. And I hope people heard that. So, using science and technology, you can target in your device the proper UVB, the exact spectrum of UVB that gives you vitamin D production. And you can get, based on equivalent time in the sun, 12 to 15 times more vitamin D production because it's just right there. It's on your skin. And it strips out the UVA that causes the photo aging. So it's like best of all worlds, and absolutely a solution during wintertime
Yes.
when we're not getting enough vitamin D production. So explain that, I guess, like the misconceptions around vitamin D in the sun, because we know we want some, but coming into wintertime in Northern Hemisphere, things are changing big time right now.
Yes, actually, I've learned a lot of the sun during the last 2 years, and also having one machine to measure the UVB or the whole spectrum helps a lot. Because, for example, I've seen people put in lots of sunscreen early in the morning or late at day, and at those moments you have zero UVB basically. So
Yeah.
you're doing nothing with the sun protection. You only need to put sunscreen when you're going to spend more time than your skin can handle and when the sun is very high. So, what happens, for example, in most of Europe and most of the United States, from October till April, since you're in winter, it's because you don't get enough sunlight. And that's because the sun doesn't rise up to the zenith like it does year around, for example, in the equator. So, when the sun is not at the right angle, basically you can still feel the warmth of the sun. That's the
Yes.
infrared. You get the infrared all year around, but you're not getting the healthy UVB that's going
Uh-huh.
to help with the vitamin D, with the serotonin, with the hormones, and many other benefits. And that's why you see that in winter, testosterone levels drops when you're up north, and also comes the flu season because less vitamin D, and
Yes.
also depression season because less light and less sun. So it's everything is just correlated. So obviously the best thing would be for somebody that's living up north to go to the Caribbean for those months and get more sun. But since that's not possible, I designed a lamp that could help you with that. Even in my country, it's amazing. But in El Salvador, around 45% of people have low vitamin D, even if we have the sun. But that's because modern lifestyle keeps us from 9 to 5 indoors. So we're not getting the sun we need, even in places with enough sunlight.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. Now, those here's a question I have for you. Like morning sunshine, we hear that it's very good in the eyes for
Yes.
circadian rhythm, for serotonin production. That morning sunshine wouldn't have the UVB in it naturally. It would have infrared
Yes.
and obviously visible light, so white light, full spectrum,
And a
like
little UVA too.
and a little UVA. So that's
Yes.
still good for us outside of the UVB, but do we also want UVB in our eyes as well? And like, what's the deal with the morning sunshine? And I guess also where people can buy those inexpensive seasonal depression lamps, which have no UV, they just have white light. Like, are
Mhm.
those effective? Like, can you explain the aspect of that?
Yes, basically we have in a brain what's called the supercharismatic nucleus, and that's the one that regulates basically our body clock.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that we evolved for millions of years is basically to regulate that natural clock that's called the circadian rhythm through light. So for example, what would be naturally 100 years ago when we didn't have artificial light and when we had to work outside, basically you would go out without glasses and receive a lot of sunshine in your eyes, and that
Mm-hmm.
will basically trigger your brain telling you like, okay, it's morning because you're getting a lot of light. And when you compare, for example, if you have a device and you can measure what are the lux, the amount of light that you have indoors and what you have outside, sometimes most rooms only have around 500 lux. And what you actually need early in the morning to actually wake up is 10,000. So, what
Wow.
those SAD lamps do, they don't give you infrared, they don't give you UV, they just give you white light that includes the blue, because it's the blue that's going to be triggering in your eyes to wake up at a very high intensity. So basically, during winter, you're getting too little light. That makes your brain think and try to get into hibernation mode. That gets you depressed. But
Mm-hmm.
if you get more light, then you'll feel that it's day and you get your circadian rhythm back on track. But the opposite happens, and that's one of the biggest problems we have nowadays, that we're getting too little light during the day. But during the
Mm-hmm.
night, we're with
Yeah.
those very bad LEDs that have too much blue light. They have no infrared. We're on our screens. We have in front of the computer, in front of the TV. So we're basically destroying the natural circadian rhythm through light.
Dang. That's a very powerful statement made there. How disconnected we are from the proper light signaling, and it's exactly right. Everyone has is getting no proper sunshine, or most people in the morning, not getting enough proper blue light or enough lux, especially in the winter, and people are
Hmm.
blasting themselves with unnatural blue light in the evening. But even so, even getting enough lux and white light, you're still not getting during the winter time the UVB. And even to your case in El Salvador, like where people have access to like perfect sun all year round, are still deficient in vitamin D. So let's talk a little bit more about the vitamin D story of like
Hmm.
what's happened, some of the statistics around vitamin D, and I guess just how important this is, and probably one of the most important things to optimize for your health and your immune system. I think is probably one of the big talking points as well. So let's talk about vitamin D.
Yes, as far as I've researched, basically vitamin D can affect around 3% of your genome. So 3% of your genes are reactive to the right levels of vitamin D. So vitamin D has a great impact on your health. Initially, vitamin D was thought just to be important for bone health,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they discovered, because vitamin D is actually a hormone. But in the beginning, people in England were having rickets because they were spending too much time without the sun, so their bones were developing really soft, really bland. And they found out that if they gave those kids cod liver oil, they got healed. So they tried to find out the ingredient inside cod liver oil, and it was vitamin D. So they call it a
Mm-hmm.
vitamin. But a few years later, it was actually found that your body produces it, and it's a hormone. And they
Mm-hmm.
discovered that there's a natural mechanism in which you produce the vitamin D when you get exposed to UVB. And actually, some of the first sun lamps were actually developed in the 1930s. They were
Wow.
not that safe because they were mercury arc and gave you UVC, but they actually were good giving you the vitamin D. So vitamin D helps with many different things. For example, right now there's sadly a big trend toward autoimmune disease. And
Yes.
one of the easiest ways you can get to solve autoimmune disease is you don't follow the guidelines for the vitamin D, but go a lot over, because now they're considering that if you're doing 30 nanograms per milliliter, you're doing good for vitamin D. And that's good for calcium for your bones. But for example, if you want to get the autoimmune benefit, and there are many, I believe that in the United States, around 4% of people have some form of autoimmune disease, then just by getting your level from 65 to 90, which are still a lot on the safe side, you could help heal your gut lining, and in that way start healing the rest of your body, because all health starts in the gut. And one of the things the gut needs for optimal health in the lining is vitamin D.
If you're a coffee lover, you know that not all coffee is created equal. Most coffee today is loaded with pesticides, mycotoxins, and heavy metals, things you definitely don't want in your morning brew. That's where Life Boost coffee comes in. It's the only doctor-backed coffee that's pure, safe, and packed with flavor. Life Boost Coffee Trust Pure process screens for over 450 toxins, so you're getting a clean, low-acid coffee that's gentle on your stomach. Their beans are USDA certified organic, single origin, and grown without pesticides at high altitudes, meaning more antioxidants and a rich, smooth taste. Life Boost also offers a decaf option made with the Swiss water method, so you can enjoy a pure chemical-free decaf that's just as delicious as the original. What really sets Life Boost apart? It's doctor-crafted, trusted by health professionals, and delivers on flavor without the bitterness or acidity found in other coffees. You'll taste and feel the difference with every sip. Visit lifeboostcoffee.com/fitfamily and use code FITFAMILY10 for 10% off your order. That's lifeboostcoffee.com/fitfamily with code FITFAMILY10 for a healthier coffee experience. Decaf included. I promise you'll absolutely love it. It makes so much sense. And I think the more I've studied health, I just realize how interconnected this body is to the whole natural cycle. So it makes so much sense to me that this body develops in contact with the sun, that the sun feeding into the skin then affects the gut lining and the hormones that are present in the blood. All those white blood cells have vitamin D receptors. So if you want to be healthy, you align yourself more with the natural rhythms of life. And knowing that depending on where you live, you're going to have seasonal challenges. For optimal health, you get tools like the one you developed and I want to start talking about now that'll help, offset things. So your lamp, give people some stats, because it has a setting on it that gives you the right dose of UVB based on your skin tone. How much vitamin D can it produce during a session, and how long is the session?
Okay, vitamin D is very dependent on your skin color and on your age. So basically, it's believed that the biggest vitamin D production is around 20 years. So if you're 15, you produce less. And then after 20, the vitamin D production in your skin starts lowering. So the older you are, the more sun you would need to produce the same amount of vitamin D. So when I designed this lamp, basically I know that people don't have time. So I wanted it to be fast enough so you could get the benefits of UVB, but long enough to have it combined with the right amount of infrared, because any type of UVA or UVB by itself without the infrared, it's not healthy. And that's what happened, for example, during the last 40 years with sun tanning beds. People age very fast because they're getting mostly UVA with little UVB, and it's UVB the one that also protects from the aging of UVA, and they're getting zero infrared. So that's like the perfect recipe for getting aged really fast. So I tried to develop this lamp going according to nature. So for example, when in your case, you're like a P2 or P3, you look more Mediterranean now that I see you with best color than I did yesterday. So you would be, for example, a P3. So it's very simple here. With the machine, you will just put, for example, the P3, put your safety glasses on because you need it for the ultraviolet because it's very strong, point it into your naked torso and turn it on. And that would be 5 minutes. But the nice thing about this is that not all the 5 minutes are UV, but I tried to design it according to nature. And for example, one of the best ways if you want to get less sunburn is to get early morning sunlight and without glasses. So your eyes sense the UVA and your skin gets preparated with the infrared. So this is like a mini daily sun cycle, because at the beginning it's infrared, then it's infrared plus UVB, and at the end it's just infrared. So we've done some tests, and basically this can help you tolerate more than double the same amount of UV without getting red. So that means you can do more vitamin D production because your skin is tolerating the UV better.
That is so poetic, and I love it so much how you just mirrored the natural cycle of the sun in a condensed format, right? Again, to emphasize this so people really understand, the morning time, infrared, not much UV at all. Midday, infrared and UV. End of the day, we lose the UV and we come back to infrared. And that's exactly what you give people in a session. You're giving them a sunrise,
Yes.
a middle day, and a sunset in a 5 minute or so thing. And
Yes.
also, and I think it's important to note too, different people have different degrees of digestive health. So you may not be able to really maximize the benefits of taking a vitamin D supplement. You know, some people can take tons of
Yes.
it and not really move their levels. But the kind of vitamin D you get from UVB light hitting the cholesterol in your skin, you get this sulfated, very bioactive form of vitamin D that can persist and keep your levels high a lot longer. So maybe speaking to that, the difference between getting your vitamin D from sunshine versus food, and it doesn't have to be an either or, but I'm a person who
Yes.
now believes that sun is the more potent and more biocompatible way.
Okay, just one thing before you asked me how much the vitamin D production,
Yeah.
and depending on your skin type and basically how tan you are, you can produce on average from 2,000 to 4,000 IUs of in one session. So since
So that's
the
like 5 minutes or so, like 5 to 10 minutes, you can get the equivalent of taking a supplement.
yeah,
But you're also actually straight up producing it, not just taking it. Yes.
yeah, so basically, most supplements doctors recommend are at least on the 4,000 IU side. So basically, if you use it, you'll be doing that naturally. And if you are really doing bad and want to increase faster, then you could use it one cycle on your chest and one cycle on your back.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay,
cool.
now let's talk about the other question and the bioavailability. Yes, it's totally different to get vitamin D from the sun than to get it from a pill, because, for example, vitamin D is one of around 20 molecules that your skin produces when you get the sun. And if your skin are producing those other molecules similar to vitamin D that are not too studied right now, there must be some benefits with those other
Yes.
molecules. And what has happened, for example, there have been many studies that they've given people oral vitamin D, raise their levels, and then compared to the benefits of getting the sun, and they
Mm-hmm.
are not the same benefits.
Yes.
So oral vitamin D works with things like calcium. It also works with things like the immune system, but many of the other benefits, because there are dozens of benefits of vitamin D, you cannot get it by synthetic form, but by actually getting more sun. For example, one of the best things you can do about getting the UVB is for depression, because it works directly to improve serotonin, and also it works by improving your microbiome. And your microbiome is the one, and your gut is the one responsible for most production of serotonin.
Hmm.
So one of the biggest reasons people are getting depression is because they have unhealthy guts. and
Yes.
that's and that's basically just messing up the whole system. Also, if you get oral vitamin D and stop taking it, it will get down very fast. But if you do it through the sun, then it will last longer, because, as I told you, you're producing some other chemical similar to vitamin D that could be turned to vitamin D later on if needed.
So cool. And I think the truism there that, I think also kind of points to one of the failures of the thinking behind modern medicine is we
Hmm.
become so reductionistic where we try to target the end part of a pathway. It's like, here's this pharmaceutical that does this very particular thing in this pathway. It blocks this inflammatory marker. Whereas I think what we're finding is the ways reliably to create great health is to feed the pathway at the top with the best healthy input. So in this case, natural sunshine. In the case of the digestive tract, if you feed the proper amount of prebiotic fiber, all the downstream stuff that happens with the probiotics like happens on its own. So I just think it's good to think upstream, what are the prime healthy inputs, and the sun being one of the main ones. I'm just so passionate about this. Now, what I love about your product is it doesn't just have the UVB setting for the vitamin D production. You also have red and infrared light as well, a different setting
Yeah.
that's good for anti-aging. So let's get into that whole discussion too. So we set aside UVB. You can run the protocol for 5-10 minutes a day and get your UVB. Wonderful in the wintertime. But
Hmm.
also, if you just want to like get the benefits of infrared, which is a huge part of the light spectrum that's so beneficial, you have this other setting. So
Hmm.
talk to us about the different wavelengths of infrared light that you have in here, what this different setting is, and what
Okay.
the benefits are for health.
Okay, I'll start explaining how the near infrared works. There are many mechanisms, but like helping build more structured water, but that's more technical. But for
Mm-hmm.
example, from a simple standpoint, in your cells, you have mitochondria. I believe that there was one mitochondria per cell, but actually you could have hundreds or even thousands of mitochondria, and those are the ones that basically take the nutrients and then convert it to ATP, and that's the
Yes.
form of energy our body can use. So when you're young, when you're a baby, your mitochondria are totally healthy. You're at 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and that's right. That's why you build collagen. That's why your skin is so subtle and so nice. But as you age, basically, the efficiency of the mitochondria starts getting down. And if you do little exercise, if you get little sun, if you have a bad diet and are getting too many carbohydrates, then your mitochondria starts getting damaged. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that red light does is basically that it powers your mitochondria to start producing again more efficiently energy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incredible because they found out that the mitochondria have a photoreceptor that basically utilizes the near infrared in a specific wavelength to power the cell. So what does that
So cool.
translate? Yes, it's amazing, and it's actually what's discovered by NASA by mistake during the 1990s. They were doing a program to grow vegetables in space, and they were using infrared and red light to grow them. And they found out that people that were working, it was actually done on Earth, not in space, but they found that those people were getting uh, their scars healed faster, their cuts, their bruises, and also their skin was getting nice. So that's where they started doing the study, like what's going on with the infrared. And basically, when you get more sun, your mitochondria get healthier, and that's like rejuvenating. And that's why when you use red light, for example, for your face, you start producing more collagen. The photo damage starts going down. The also the sagging, the wrinkles. It's really, really, really amazing. And that's why, for example, right now, many dermatologists and many people are using the masks and the panels. It's because it works, and there are more than 5,000 studies that prove that it helps with joints, it helps with inflammation, it helps with skin aging, it helps with hair growth. So it's amazing. And basically, we evolved to take the sun. So when we're using a red light therapy panel, it's not like we're giving some unknown supplement our body doesn't know. We're
Yeah.
just giving what the body needs naturally, and that we are not giving it anymore because we replaced incandescent sun bulbs, for
Yes.
example, with LEDs. And those incandescent bulbs were actually very healthy because 90% of the energy was actually in the infrared.
Yes.
So,
Which makes them less efficient, but actually more
yeah.
biologically compatible.
Yes, that's right. So, for example, in my room, at least, I replace all of the LEDs with incandescent bulbs to get the
Yeah.
infrared. And every day I use the infrared. So, for example, if you wanted to use this for skin anti aging, you would use DH mode. So, this is very nice about this device that it works like a regular red light therapy panel, but then as a sun lamp with the UVB.
Mm-hmm.
So, you put here the H mode, you
Mm-hmm.
turn it on, and that would be basically I recommend 10 minutes. So you would shine it on your eyes, on your neck, on your hands. For this, you don't actually need to put the glasses on because infrared is actually good for your eyesight
Yes.
because your cells in your eyes, your photoreceptors, are actually one of the most the cells with the most mitochondria. So they need more energy than anywhere else. And there are many studies now that it shows that if you use red light on your eyes, or actually go early in the morning and take light from the sunset, you will be improving your eyesight. So so it's amazing, and we have customers that have bought it, for example, because they have some inflammation. Some buy it for skin anti-aging. So it's great because it gives you the benefits of a panel plus the hormone benefits of the UVB.
And yeah, I just want to make sure everyone understands it's so clear is with the Mitolux light panel, you get the setting that gives you the UVB for 5 to 10 minutes. And you also get this anti-aging, anti-inflammatory healing setting that you can shine on your body, any area of your body. So if you have pain in a knee or a shoulder, it would help because it has red light and near infrared. If you just want anti-aging, you can shine it on you, and it's fantastic. And yours is cool because you have a mix of some standard red light. So when people turn on these panels, they see the red light. What you don't see is the infrared. We can't detect that with our eye sensors, but
Yes.
that's where a lot of the benefits coming. You have the 830 and 850 nanometer wavelengths, but you also have this kind of like orange red, which is really
Ah,
cool. It's
yes.
like more of an amber. And that's actually one of the things that I like about your product that makes it unique, besides the fact that it has UVB, is you have
Yes.
this slightly different red tone than just a standard red panel. Can you speak into that orange red, which is around 590 nanometers?
Yes, basically, I added that wavelength for two reasons. One is because I believe that most people that would like to use this lamp also like taking the sun, and that ages your skin and gives you sunspot as photo damage. So the 590 helps to work against photo aging because it increases topical nitric oxide production. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've taken too much sun on previous years, that wavelength would be the one that helps the most at helping reverse the sun damage you had through the years. And the second reason is the psychology of color. Orange, like the one you get in sunset, is one of the colors that could boost your mood more than anything else because it's the color that's most associated with creativity, with optimism,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely believe we could do more of that. And also one more interesting thing that I haven't mentioned yet. One of the reasons that I developed this lamp is because 2 years ago there was a big trend of getting more sun to the male genitals, and that was
Yes.
the thing I was actually doing by getting outside. But there were people wanting to do that, but didn't have a place to go out naked and
Right.
take the sun. So basically, one of the first reasons I developed this lamp is that in the case of males, you can use it also obviously on your chest, but also you can use it down under to get the benefits of getting UV. And there's a very old study that proved that when you get more UVB there, that you could increase more testosterone, but more than testosterone, and another hormone that's very related with male fertility. So that's very interesting.
That's so cool. Um, I think it'd be a great part of a routine. I can imagine someone would maybe shower in the morning and have the light panel just in their bathroom and do
Hmm.
5 minutes. Just for guys, you want to raise your testosterone, just put it on your testicles and your just lower abdomen testicles for 5 minutes, and you're literally getting natural testosterone boosting from light in a
Yeah.
very biocompatible way. It's phenomenal. So
Yes.
so cool.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I love about taking nude sunbaths. Have not done yet studies to see how much is the difference in testosterone or vitamin D that actually getting on your torso or getting it down. But I have heard many people that have been using it on their genitals that have seen that they have increased, for example, morning erections. So
Yeah.
there must be something there going on. And the pathway in which you produce more testosterone is basically when you get UV on your skin, you trigger the P53 hormone, no P53
Pathway.
protein, the protein, and that will send a signal to your brain to produce more luteinizing hormone and the other hormone, and that will trigger the production of more testosterone.
Hmm.
So that's why countries that have more sunlight have higher levels of testosterone.
Fantastic. That's so cool. And I think for everyone listening to this who wants to improve their body composition, if you get your vitamin D levels correct, if you get your testosterone levels correct, those are very related. Your body composition is gonna change and improve. You'll build muscle faster. You'll lose fat easier. You'll feel more motivated to actually exercise. And using this as a seasonal tool is so smart and important. And I'm really grateful that you created this.
Yes,
So
and
yeah,
for
keep on going.
example, I've told people, have you ever seen a fat surfer? And they're like, no, surfers are very skinny. And what do they have in common? they have their circadian rhythm working fine because they're getting really early to catch the waves, and they're getting a lot of sun. So if you work with your circadian rhythm and if you get more sun, basically you will be changing the problem. And I believe that it was Jack Cruz that it says that you cannot improve your health if you continue in the same light environment that got you unhealthy. So if you're unhealthy, you don't need just to change your habits, your nutritional habits, but also your light habits.
Hmm. So maybe that's a nice couple things to chat about as we kind of round this out.
Hmm.
One, I meant to ask you earlier, what type of sunscreen? You said you use a mineral based sunscreen. When you do on your maybe your face and your hands after midday, if you're getting a ton of sun and you're out for like 5 hours, like playing golf or something like that, like
Hmm.
what kind of sunscreen do you prefer and do you think is healthy?
Yeah, basically, it's very difficult because there are very few companies that actually have a good composition, because there are some mineral ones, but also have hormonal disruptors. So that's one of the biggest danger with people using sunscreen, especially males, is that most of the ingredients you can find on this and skincare are actually disrupting your testosterone and giving you basically like female hormones. So you need to be very careful on what you're using. And the ones I use, I believe, is called Third Rock. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. I forgot the name. I can send you the link. And they're
Is
doing,
it zinc oxide or is it zinc or titanium oxide based?
I think it's zinc oxide, but it's
Yeah.
chelated. So
Okay.
basically, it covers a broader spectrum that regular zinc. So it's like a process this company has. And obviously, the best sunscreen is no sunscreen, because
Yeah.
any sunscreen you're putting chemicals. So the best thing would be to use the shade like a hat or clothing
Yeah.
when you got too much, than to be putting chemicals. But we obviously need to get some sun. So usually, for example, what I do, I spend the first 15 20 minutes in the sun without anything, and
Yep.
when I got my dose, I put sunscreen on my face and I cover the rest of my body. So
Yep.
that's the way I use it.
I actually have the exact same protocol. I have a really nice hat that I use for general shade, like a wide brimmed hat. I basically never wear sunscreen unless I'm in the sun for a long, long amount of time. Like I took my daughter to the zoo. We were outside for 5, 6 hours. I put some on my arms because I was wearing a short sleeve t-shirt. But yeah, and also prepping your skin early in the morning with the infrared before the UV time also makes you more sun resistant. So it's cool that we're doing the same things. And I hope that everyone kind of starts to take some mental note of some better habits with stuff you put on your skin. And I guess I want
Hmm.
to also talk about we're talking about how to make a more biocompatible light environment. Like talk to us about your home, like how you set up your home, or another way to approach this is what you would suggest people do in terms of changing things out with blue light filters, or you mentioned the incandescent bulbs versus the LEDs, or maybe dimming lights at night. Like what are some practical tips people can do to create a more biocompatible, healthy light environment?
Okay. Basically, the first thing would be try to get natural light into your eyes as early as possible. So, for example, what I try to do, I try to wake up and walk my dogs without wearing any glasses, because most of the glasses block the UVA, and you actually need UVA to trigger your circadian rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important thing. And then during the day, I try to take walks or use natural light as much as possible, and use LEDs during the day, high intensity, so I'm awake. And basically during the night, I change things. For example, I've been using for the last months one brand of blue blocker glasses that are the Viva rays. So they're very nice because during the day it lets the UVA through, but
Mm-hmm.
then during the evening at night you can put a yellow, an orange, or a red filter depending on how much blue light you want to filter. Also, I use my red light panel, my Mitolux, during the night to get more infrared to my face. And also sometimes I'm even using it when I'm in my computer,
Mm-hmm.
because the problem with blue light, it's not that blue light it's bad, but the problem is you have it at night, or if you have it not combined with infrared. So the infrared
Mm-hmm.
is the one that's going to prevent the damage from too much blue light. And also I've changed my bulbs to regular incandescent, and
Yeah.
also they're very dim, so I'm not getting either too much well, any blue light at night, and also not too high intensity light. So that's what I'm doing. And also, for example, with my phone, I try to put this filter that turns it to red, or I use the glasses.
That's fantastic. Any of those would be really powerful things, because imagine if you didn't have the right environment and every day you had a little bit of some kind of light stressor, like, and that just stacks up over your whole life. And all it takes is listening to this conversation today and just making a couple foundational changes, like make the commitment to swap out your light bulbs, get the Mitolux panel and get it incorporated into your routine. What I really appreciate about the device that you made is it's not some huge, giant, bulky thing. I mean, you could probably even pack in a suitcase and travel with it. It's small. Look at it, it folds up. It looks like just a little bigger. It's like a thick iPad. I mean, it's bigger than an iPad, but it's not crazy. Like, you could travel with it, which is so cool, which means it could go on your desk. It can go in your bathroom. You could take it places with you. And that's cool because, there's these panels that are huge, tall ones, which absolutely have benefit, but they're also weigh like 50 to 100 pounds and like they're bulky. So it's like what you can be consistent with is what matters.
Yes, basically, when I designed this, I learned that, for example, before I was making my own device, I purchased to my father a big panel, a big one. It was like $2,000, but he didn't use it because it says that it was too bulky for his room space. So it was great, but because of the size, he was not using. So when I designed this, I wanted it to be obviously nice looking, not plastic, not steel, but aluminum, high quality. And I wanted it to be compact, small, so you can take it to travel with you. So basically, what I did is design it like this. And right now we have also the travel. We have the travel case you can use. And also we have developed that floor stand you see over there. In that case, basically, you would be removing this, the regular stand, and putting it over there. But that gives you a lot of flexibility because you can use it while laying down or in many different ways. So there are actually many clinics that are using that one, like chiropractors.
So cool. I love that. Yeah, I mean, this has been so informative. I love your product. I hope everyone does check it out. And we will have links in the show notes. And people can also go to, is it mitolux.com, Mitolux.com?
Yes, mitolux.com.
Great. Well, this was awesome. I so appreciate you coming on and informing us about the powerful benefits of light. And I'll say this, if you're listening to this conversation up to this point, you're obviously interested in the power of light. And if you do live in the Northern Hemisphere, I mean, coming into this season, like, this could be a perfect gift to get yourself and your family to dramatically improve your health over a large portion of the year. Like, imagine getting the benefits of sunshine throughout this entire winter with 5 to 10 minutes. Imagine optimizing your vitamin D straight up by using the power of light that in some sense is even, more targeted than sunshine because you're getting the specific intensity of UVB that gives you the vitamin D production. I'm a huge fan of this product, and I'm grateful that you were introduced to our Fit Father community. Thank you for coming on, Guti. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you very much. And just one closing word. Nature doesn't make mistakes, so try to get as much natural sunlight as you can. But if you cannot get it because of your schedule or where you live, then this is a totally natural and healthy option to get your health back on track.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone checks this out. And I appreciate our conversation today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Fit Father Project podcast. If you love what you heard, please rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps spread this show to more men who need this valuable info. To watch full video episodes of this podcast and other motivational videos to inspire your training and more, visit our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. It's free and everything's made for busy guys over 40 like you. Visit youtube.com/Fit Father Project to get access to our entire video library. And finally, if you or someone in your life is interested in becoming a fit father or needs help losing weight, building muscle, and living healthier after age 40, then visit fitfatherproject.com, where you can see our proven programs, supplement line for guys 40 plus, and free meal plan and workouts to get you started. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you in the next episode.